As there are now calls by Alan Bates to prosecute those people in the post office who knew that the Horizon system was faulty and who nevertheless were pursuing this vendetta of prosecuting and imprisoning postmasters and postmistresses who had fallen foul of the faulty system by Fujitsu, there's now a story about early experiments with the Fujitsu software relayed by Robin Hammond, who was one of 100 participants in a 1998 pilot of the system before the national rollout started later that year, or later the following year, 1999. And he was paid £250 because it was quite clear that there were teething problems with the software. And he was paid in recognition, quote, of all the problems that he had experienced with the system, even before the full rollout began. Lord Arbuthnot has said, the Post Office's behaviour in rolling out the pilot scheme before the full Horizon system seems to have been no better than what we are now finding about in relation to the full Horizon software. It's clear that there were serious problems and that the Post Office knew about them. And Kevin Jones, a former Labour MP, said, this is more damning evidence that the Post Office knew this system was flawed way back in 1998. It's more evidence that they were defending the indefensible. You know, it's so important that organisations, newspapers, magazines like Private Eye were on this and were calling it out almost from day one. And Bridgen, as I said earlier, called it out by 2012. But the clock is being pushed back all the time. Who knew? Who knew it was faulty and from when? Mr. Hammond is saying very clearly from the very beginning there were numerous problems with this system. And I put this down to the fact the Post Office were in so much of a hurry and that this system was the best thing since sliced bread, and they rushed it out without testing it properly. Mr. Hammond is now retired, and on one occasion he says, at one of these meetings where approximately 30 to 40 postmasters attended, one of the fellow sub-postmasters got up and told the assembled post office officials that she knew there was a fault on the system and she refused to open her post office until the system is cleansed. And after a few months, everybody involved in that trial was paid £250 as a sweetener for all the problems everyone was having. His branch was near Bath, and which he ran with his wife Mary, who is now 73. And the couple themselves experienced during that rollout time, during that first trial, experienced a shortfall of £600 during the pilot. Yet fortunately, they had kept track of their accounts on paper alongside all the computer records. They wanted us to make up the shortfall ourselves, but I insisted that it was not our fault, and after a few weeks they eventually said it was not down to us and they wrote it off. They sold their post office in 2002. I'm not really surprised. Why would anybody want to take on an organisation that does not trust its superior managers, the people in charge? When the people in charge do not trust the managers who take on the franchise, the organisation who run it. The same issue, frankly, should be called out about schools, because Ofsted is effectively a demonstration that the government and we do not trust the people that we put in charge of schools. We don't trust the head teachers and the senior staff in schools. So if we don't trust them, why are they running the schools? If we don't trust them, why are the postmasters and postmistresses still running post offices? This is the point. We need to put back into our civic life this element of trust. We trust Willie Ragg. You know, the Chancellor of the Exchequer has come out to tell us how much we trust Willie Ragg. Why don't we trust postmasters and postmistresses? Why don't we trust head teachers? Yes, there'll be a few people who are not worthy of that trust. But if the principle on which we base our life is that everybody is suspicious, everybody is possibly fiddling the books, and we have this sledgehammer approach to checking, that sense of distrust pervades our society, and we can do nothing. There used to be a principle in Britain that our word is our bond, our handshake is good enough, and that the assumption is that we are trustworthy. But I think that principle is fast being eroded by situations like the post office scandal, by situations like the Ofsted scandal, by Ofcom. These quangos, whether they're called post office, whether they're called Ofcom, whether they're called Ofsted, doesn't matter what they're called. They're performing the same job. They are chipping away at the principle of trust because they are some sort of superior bureaucracy. We are bowing down to paperwork as if that is more important than honour and trust.